In this video, I'll give you a quick overview of Razor syntax and explain how you can use it to embed C# logic in your views. For a more general discussion of embedding server-side code in markup and using Razor syntax independently of an MVC application, you can take a look at my lynda.com course Up and Running with ASP.NET, which has a video on Razor syntax in the second chapter. Let's take a look at our index view again. And the point I'm starting from in this video should match the state of the project in the exercise files under Chapter 2 in the Start folder. Now in general, we don't want to have too much logic in our views, since one of the guiding principles of MVC is separation of concerns. But sometimes the easiest way to dynamically display things is with a little bit of embedded C#. So in this file, at the top we can see one way that Razor syntax can be used. We have an @ with curly braces, and inside the curly braces, we can write C# as if we were inside a .cs file. Here we're setting a value for the viewBag's title property, using a normal C# assignment statement ending in a semicolon. Let's look at another type of Razor syntax. At the bottom of the page, we'll emit some dynamic text, say the name of the user's browser. When we have an @ immediately followed by C# code, that's going to have the effect of evaluating and rendering it as a string. Request.browser contains a lot of information about the client's browser, but if I just want a human-readable string name, I can do request.browser.browser. And let's save and take a look. You can see that the view engine is pretty smart about where the HTML ends and the C# begins, and vice versa. For example, it doesn't have a problem with the comma right after browser here. It also won't get confused by an email address which contains an @. A Twitter handle will break things, however. To get around that, we can just use a double @. Another way we can use Razor syntax is by creating inline helper methods to simplify our display logic. We do this with the helper keyword, which allows us to create methods that we can call from another Razor expression or code block. Let's say I wanted to have some logic around how dollar amounts for transactions are formatted. I want negative amounts to be red and everything else to be green. I could create a method called formatAmount that takes a decimal. Inside the method, we'll initialize color to be green, but if the amount is less than 0, we'll change it to red. Then we can simply start typing the HTML that we want this helper method to emit, and we can use an @ to switch back to C# when necessary. I'm going to format this as currency for the default culture. Then, anywhere else on the page, even above the helper method declaration, I can call this method. For example, let's first create a generic list of decimal. This is just to have something to test it with, and I'll give it some transaction amounts. The integers can be explicitly cast or implicitly cast as decimals, but for things like 25, 50, we'll want to use the M suffix to make sure they're not treated as doubles. So let's format these amounts in a list with a for each loop. Again, just as easily as I can embed C# in my markup, I can put markup inside these code blocks. And let's take another look. We can simply refresh, no need to compile, and there's our nice formatted list of transaction amounts. Another thing that can confuse the view engine is plain text inside a code block. So you can see that it's treating that as C#. Two ways around that. We can wrap it in text tags, or we can use an @ with a colon. You can use normal C# commenting syntax inside Razor code blocks, but if you want to comment out any section of the entire view file, we can use an @ followed by an asterisk, and then the reverse at the end. We'll be looking at some other special keywords that we use with Razor views very soon, but for now, we're going to take a closer look at layout files in the next video.